Welcome, everyone, to the Red Sea Road podcast number 23, I believe. 22, 21, 22, 23.
This is 22.
Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Red Sea Road podcast number 22, coming to you live from Bismarck, North Dakota. We are by ourselves today, Liz and I. Liz, who holds up the church, and I, who come over here whenever they call.
And pokes everybody.
And pokes people and annoys people. But we want you to grab your staff and put your sandals back on, and we're going to walk down the road together and talk a little bit about some Christmas traditions around food. I happen to know from experience that everybody eats. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Maybe too much this time of year.
Yeah. I didn't get like this for nothing.
Well, my grandmother used to say, you really need to put on some weight. If you ever get sick, you're just going to waste away. And so I live by those words. That and my grandfather said to me one time, be sure and eat what you want when you're young, because when you get old, they start taking it away from you.
Yep.
So tell me, Liz, is there something that you've done traditionally for Christmas that you bake or make or cook or...
Well, okay, so I'm not a big baker, and my kids know this. So when they went to home ec, I'd come home in the summer, they'd have cakes, cookies. They had it all made. It's like, oh, gee, thank you. So baking frustrates me because the phone rings, 5 people come to the doorbell, the cat used to puke, water
and then
faucet would break.
Sidetracked.
I get sidetracked, or the washer would blow up. I was just like, you're telling me not to bake. Okay, I get it. All right. So I'll fix you a 5-course meal. My mother was always a cook, and
your ethnic background is Norwegian, right?
No, I'm Swede, my mom's a full-blooded Finlander.
Oh man, they must have some wonderful baked goods with cardamom in it. I love cardamom.
Yeah.
Isn't that a spice that's familiar to you at Christmas time?
Yeah. My grandmother is a Swede, and in fact, her folks came over. My great-grandparents came over. She'd always make krumkaka, those rosettes. Oh, I loved making those rosettes with her. And those were kind of like family traditions, those Swedish, I don't know. They're that northern part of the United Kingdom or whatever you want to call it, Europe.
So everything's made out of flour and fat.
Yeah, flour and fat, right?
A little bit of sugar,
maybe.
Fun.
Yeah, sometimes you get a little bit of milk and cream in there, yeah.
Or a lot of milk and cream in there.
Yeah, cinnamon. Oh.
So what about like on Christmas Eve? I know that I was really surprised that there were people that ate seafood around Christmas time, or like clam chowder and stuff. And that was just unheard of in my family.
Oyster stew.
What is up with that?
My mom would always make that, and it would make it for my dad. Us, okay, we'll have hot dogs, but
I think I might offer a hot dog that night too.
yeah. But that was always a tradition with my mom and dad. They'd always make oyster soup or oyster stew.
That was so weird.
Yeah,
The only thing that I can figure out, I know of all the traditions, I'm German-Russian, and the people down in McIntosh County, like everybody has the same kind of recipes, but they just have their own little twist to them maybe. But I think that part of what we grew up with traditionally for food was based on what was available seasonally.
Right.
They didn't have big box stores, and they didn't have roads most of the time. They couldn't get to town, and so they had to rely on things like dates and raisins, molasses, Karo syrup,
mincemeat.
They always had halva was something that we always had, which is an almond paste that I don't think I even like, but we always looked forward to having that at Christmas time for some reason. Or St. John's bread, or would that show up at Easter time? But they did what they could with what they had back then.
Yeah, and everybody was used their own ingenuity, and they didn't have much back then. They didn't
have cookbooks either.
They didn't have cookbooks, and they did it all from memory, all from watching their mothers, grandmothers.
So you obviously weren't watching your mom when she was baking. When
Oh
you
no,
were a kid, huh?
we had such a small kitchen. She never let me in there. She's, I always make such a mess. It's like, okay, I'm out of here. So I was like, okay, I really didn't start cooking till I was in my late 20s, and from there, and then it was like a whole new world open up. It's like, oh, I can make this, and that.
So if you're not having oyster stew on Christmas Eve, do you have something that you do?
Oh, usually, sometimes we like to eat light. Like a good one is chicken tortilla soup, homemade.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, yeah. And then you have the sourdough bread, and then you have something light for dessert or whatever. But sometimes it just depends what you're feeling like.
That's so weird too, because we do that on Christmas Eve, and we don't really make a big meal on Christmas Eve, but we'd have things that we wouldn't normally have, like shrimp cocktail and those little weenies that you only buy at Christmas time, and put them in the barbecue sauce or whatever, kind of cheese and cracker trays and fruit, because there's always an abundance of citrus fruit this time of year, which is kind of nice.
Well, and you don't want to be stuck in the kitchen on Christmas Eve because it's family time.
Right. I remember present opening.
So,
and then there's popcorn or caramel popcorn or popcorn balls or all kinds of treats, cookies and stuff. What's your favorite Christmas cookie?
Oh, my grandmother always used to make these. They're called Pfeffernusse or
Pfeffernusse.
Pfeffernusse.
That's weird for Swedish because that's a German cookie.
I love those. And then those chocolate crinkles wrapped in those chocolate ones with the powdered sugar. Oh, I love those.
Oh, chocolate crinkles or something crinkles like that.
Yeah.
Do you know I've turned 50 pounds of flour into Pfeffernusse this year, and we only have 6 left.
Oh my goodness.
I sold some of them. I didn't eat them all, but my recipe calls for 10 pounds of flour, and I made 5 recipes worth of Pfeffernusse. And mine are about that big. You know, people are like, God, they're only supposed to be that big. I'm like, if you're going to eat a cookie, you must eat a cookie, man.
So what are some of your favorite ones?
What do I love, like peanut brittle and date-filled cookies. I love date-filled cookies. And when I remember, I had an aunt that lived in California, and she would send a tray of dried fruit at Christmas time, like dried apricots and figs. I love figs. Oh my gosh, that's got to be one of my favorite things in the whole world. I ate so many that one year, I got sick from them. But yeah, figs or date-filled cookies. Oh man.
My mom would always take the dried fruit, or my grandmother, and make this fruit stew.
Yes, and eat it with fry bread. Did you eat it with fry bread?
Yeah.
Yes, that was something my mom did on occasion when she baked bread, and she must have leftover dough or something. We'd have fruit soup.
Yeah.
Which I thought they never called it that. It was kind of like, what are those prunes doing in my fruit cocktail?
Yeah. John.
So we got Jono in the corner here.
Yes, you do.
I forgot what Sam called you earlier this week.
I don't know if I should repeat it.
Oh, come on. Give it to me.
I don't like saying things about myself.
Come on. It was something about the
man
behind the mask, or the mystic man in the corner, or the guy high on the hill that lives with Gandalf, something like that.
That'd be really cool.
I know, wouldn't it? But you can't be the bird nest guy.
No,
his brother, that was creepy.
No.
So, Jono, what ethnic background are you?
Norwegian.
Pure, kind of watered
Norwegian
down a little bit.
I think it's like 75% Norwegian, and then like 20% German, and then there's a little bit of like Irish.
So you and Doug get along really well. Norwegian jokes.
Well,
no, because he's a Viking. Doug's a Viking.
Yeah. I'm not heavily invested in the culture aspect that much, but.
But what about food traditions that the Norwegians have at Christmas time? Is there anything you guys had that was in particular?
I know there's a lot of traditions for Norwegian food. However, so my mom's side is like 50-50. They're 50% German and then like 50% Norwegian. And then a little bit of that Irish and other stuff is on mom's side too. So it's a lot of German food, I think. But I don't know. Actually, I have no idea which culture foods come from, but like krumkake.
Oh, yeah, that'd be Norwegian.
Those little shoots that you roll up and put like whipped cream in or whatever.
Oh, I love those. What are those called?
Those cannolis? No, that's Italian. Those are
Let's see, there's krumkaka and rosettes.
Rosettes. Baklava is the pastry.
Oh, I love baklava. That's Greek, isn't it?
Oh, krumkaka is the
Yeah.
Is that
is
the
the
round
shoot,
rolled up one?
and then rosettes are the other thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are so hard to make, aren't they?
Well,
Don't you guys make lefse?
no, I've never had lefse on it. It doesn't sound very appealing
Oh
to
my
me.
gosh. How about you guys?
I've made lefse before, but I didn't have the round lefse thing in my.
So what's wrong with square lefse?
Well, squares lefse is good too, but my lefse would always be dry. It's like, how come you're so, it tastes like a tortilla. It's like,
So you never, John, have never had lefse? Do you remember all the Advent family fun nights we had where we got all the oldest ladies in this congregation together and they would make fresh lefse and there'd be people standing in line waiting for a piece of hot lefse with butter and sugar on it?
There's a thing where I'm a very picky eater. So
Oh, yeah.
names,
I know that John loves spinach and kale, so anytime you want to bring him something to eat,
No.
that's what you want to bring him.
bring a plate of veggies for him. He'll love you forever.
He'll follow you around.
anyways, so lefse just sounded bad to me. So I just was like, no, this is going to be terrible. I don't want to eat this. And now that I'm like reading what it is, like,
It's like a thin potato crepe.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
like a
it's good.
potato thing.
It's
like,
good.
It's like, well, why the heck haven't I eaten that? But yeah, krumkaka, I love to, it's so amazing.
Yeah.
It's like,
When they're fresh,
yeah,
nothing
fresh
better.
krumkaka and then a little bit of whipped cream in there is like, that's,
Throw a little bit of.
I mean, some fruit or
Mini
something
chocolate
maybe good
chips.
in there too. I don't know.
Peanut butter.
I don't like peanut butter that much.
Oh
But
my
Nutella.
gosh.
Well, okay. It's not that I don't like, I don't like the texture of peanut butter. I'm also really, textures drive me wild.
Texture is a large part of,
So I don't like how it like sticks to your mouth and stuff. So
I like that better than Nutella. Nutella.
I
is
don't like that.
It's like your teeth are on a chalkboard. It's like,
see, and I love Nutella.
Yeah, I tried it not too long ago.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I love Nutella.
a lot of kids like, ugh.
So that's a weird, I don't like peanut butter, but I really like Nutella.
And what about Christmas Eve? What do you have a special dish that you can make on Christmas Eve?
Lutefisk.
No, that really, that I will not eat.
I will draw the line at anything
And see,
baked
here's the
in
thing.
lye.
Like I draw this, so I always drew this connection, like Llefse and lutefisk. Somehow those things got like mixed together. So that's why I was like, I'm never touching that.
Oh, because they both start with L.
Yeah. Because the idea was like, whoa, I am out of this completely. Like, I'm not going to eat that. It just, lutefisk, I don't get it. I don't understand.
So do you, well, usually, a lot of us are in church on Christmas Eve, and some of us that worked at the church were here late on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
So you probably didn't have a huge meal.
So Christmas Eve, the way that, and it's interesting, this year has been kind of a bummer because of COVID and stuff. But we actually work. So what I would generally do, so for my volunteers, Thanksgiving, so the day before Thanksgiving, we'd have the Thanksgiving service. So we with help of my dad, we would cook a Thanksgiving meal for all of the volunteers. Like,
That's right. I remember that.
I love to do that for them because it was really fun. And then we'd all sit around the big table and eat and just chat. And it would be a little bit of a potluck because we'd have some people bring some random stuff in. It was great. And then for Christmas Eve, we don't have as much time, but we'd still get, I'd go to and get pizza, Papa Murphy's pizza, which I love. And we'd bake a whole bunch of pizzas for the volunteers and we'd just have it set up in the kitchen. And I think we're going to do that again this year, but.
Are we actually having church services where people can physically come into the church for Christmas Eve?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes,
I forgot to read the newsletter article.
Yep.
12, 1:30, 3, and 4:30.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
4 services, huh?
4 services.
So,
That information, we can find that online if anybody's
website.
interested in someplace to go. charitylutheran.org. I remember, we didn't eat a lot on Christmas Eve because we always went to church on Christmas Eve. And that was the night when we were kids, we would do our little program.
Oh, yeah.
I miss that
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
We would have to learn our piece. And then for a reward, when you left the church elders would pass out this brown paper sack
Oh, yeah.
loaded loaded with salted peanuts and the shell and ribbon candy and 2 pieces of fruit and chocolate stars that would stick to the peanuts and all that kind of good stuff. And it just, those kinds of things are just like super sweet memories. But we always went on Christmas Day. There was no arguing about where you went. We always went to my dad's parents' house for lunch, for the noon meal, and then we would go to my mom's parents for supper, and we were always expected to eat. That was like you never turned your nose up at anything. But I remember my grandmother, would cook like a chicken for all of these kids and grandkids, and it would be in this enamel roaster. And like I mentioned before, the guys would eat first, and then the women would sit down and eat, and we'd have just a great time. I spent a lot of time in the kitchen. But then when we got to do the dishes, we were all clawing our way to that enamel pan to get that crusty stuff off the bottom that was so delightful. Yeah. But my grandma Caseman made the most wonderful effervescent dill pickles in the world. And there was one Christmas I remember when she let myself and my husband eat. We ate a whole quart of pickles after our meal. We just sat down and ate that whole jar of pickles. They were so stinking good. And we had the same thing every year. There was a certain tray of vegetables. There was chicken. There were mashed potatoes. And then when we went over to my mom's house, we always had German sausage. There was always Jell-O. There were these honey cookies with white frosting and little sprinkles on them. Yeah. There were olives, coffee, punch. If we were lucky, she'd break out her homemade wine and everybody'd get about that much in a glass. Whoa, that stuff was amazing. But she never let you have any more than that. So, but it was so cool. And then when we left, she would hand us like a piece of fruit. And we always got, when we were under the age of, I'd say 14, always got a box of Cracker Jack. And she wrapped them. She had 56 grandchildren and 60 some great grandchildren, and she'd do this for everyone, and she'd wrap a box of Cracker Jack and put a silver dollar or a dollar bill in there. Started out as silver dollars, and then eventually it got to be dollar bills, because you don't see silver dollars around hardly at all anymore. And then once you got to be a little bit older, you would start getting linens from her, like crocheted doilies or runners that were embroidered with a crocheted edge on them. And I still have a whole drawer full of that stuff. She kept going long enough that my children each have something that she made them, and then a little note with her handwriting on that I put in their keepsake boxes.
What treasures.
That was tradition.
Yeah.
And that was something else. God. Doesn't it warm your heart to think about these things?
Yeah, I have a lot of my grandmother's or my mother's stuff. My mother would embroider, and my grandmother crocheted, and then she'd also knit, and she'd always say, "Come over here and I'll teach you." I said, "I don't have time for that. I don't want, that's girl stuff,
This is breaking the chain, people.
Yeah, so I'll go fix a tractor or something, that's girl stuff. But now I wish I would have. But I do have, my grandmother was a great quilt maker, so I do have a few of her quilts, and I have here are some of her embroidery, her pillowcases, her dish towels, and I just love that. In fact, they go, "Why don't you ever use those?" Well, my grandmother made them.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. Or my mother made them, and it's like,
I watched my mother save things her entire life. Yeah. Like when we were cleaning out the closets when she passed away, my dad is like, "What the heck? We're using these old stained dish towels, and she's got a stack of them this in the closet."
Yeah.
And so I thought, you know what? My grandmother's made my quilts to be used. And so I use that stuff.
Yeah.
I have crocheted tablecloths that I use, and I've got, my quilts are getting all wore out. But I thought, you know what? That's what they made them for. And when it comes to, I was always very protective about my grandma's Coogan recipe. And then I thought to myself, she would be so disappointed in me if I didn't give that away when somebody asked for it.
Yeah.
She would not ever have said, "You can't have that recipe." Yeah. She never would have said that.
Yeah. Pass on that tradition of food, of the love that
Right.
That of
because the
gathering around
more
the
you
table.
give, the
Yeah.
more you get, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how that goes.
Absolutely.
You got anything crocheted in your house, John?
Doilies. I got tons of doilies. You want some?
No, I think, I'm not much of a knowledgeable
Decorator?
person, but I think, like we do have a couple things that my grandma that passed away before, just as I was born. I think she passed away a couple months after I was born. Anyways, she had crocheted this, like, it's for under the tree, whatever they call
A
it.
table skirt,
yeah.
a tree
she's got
skirt.
I think we have a couple of those that she had made. And then my other grandma was a sewer. So I have a blanket and stuff that she
Cool.
made, and we all have a quilt. Me and each of my brothers have a quilt that she made for us and stuff like that. So
And there's just something about that kind of stuff in Christmas that is, maybe I just am too old and I get nostalgic about things at Christmas time. But that's what Christmas is
Yeah.
for, right? Families, memories, all that kind of good stuff.
Carrying on traditions.
Yeah.
Carrying on those recipes of love, of food that you make from generation to generation. Right?
Right. Even though it's getting harder to find some things like anise oil when you're making pfeffernuss.
Yeah.
I had to hunt that down this
Yeah.
year again. So, but anyway, we're about done for the day. All of us have to get back to our real jobs, even though this is way more fun. So let's see now. We have to, maybe John would close us in prayer today. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow for tomorrow's podcast, which is number 23.
I lied.
22?
It's actually, this is 23.
See, I thought I was right. Ah!
Yeah. We just,
This is 23.
Okay, I can't hardly believe it, but we had done almost 100 live stream noon programs since
did 90
Has it been that
COVID
many?
thing. Oh my gosh, it was
Wow.
like almost
98
100.
fireside
Yeah.
chats.
Wow.
Now here we are, number
Yeah,
20.
I don't know
Yeah.
what we're thinking, but yeah, show some love our way and download our podcast.
Yeah.
Make us,
Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, any of those buttons.
do all that
It
kind
really,
of stuff.
yeah. It just helps us know that
That
you
you're
like
out there enjoying what we're talking about.
And make sure to share with your friends too.
Right. And if you don't like what we're talking about or you have any questions, you certainly can contact us and we will either correct our mistakes because I know sometimes when you're talking on the fly, things get muddled in your head. So anyway, John, you want to just whoop us out a quick little goodbye prayer and then we'll carry on.
Dear Lord, just thank you for this time that we get to spend together, and thank you for this season where even though, in the midst of COVID, we still have our families and, we still have you, the ultimate Father. Thanks. Amen.
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 All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you soon.